Hey, what's going on, guys? Delrith here, bringing you another rapid-fire review, this time for the game Extinction. It was published by Maximum Games and developed by Iron Galaxy. Extinction's general plot is this. You are playing as a Sentinel, trying to defend humanity from giant orc-like Attack on Titan-sized monsters that are invading from another dimension or something, trying to exterminate and destroy all of humanity. This involves jumping around up through the air, climbing onto buildings, climbing on the monsters, breaking off pieces of armor, dismembering limbs, and decapitating them to kill them to stop the threat. This game comes in at $60, and I have to be completely honest with you guys, this was one of the hardest games I've ever had to get through and or play for review. Most of this is just going to be an angry rant. So as far as pros go in this game, really cool concept on paper. Gameplay itself, as far as like the mechanics of being able to jump up, fight these orcs, jump around, cut them apart, remove their heads, body parts, etc., etc., that is an enjoyable thing for the first few times that you do it. As far as another pro, I have to say that there were no crashes, there were no technical problems, I never had any bugs or glitches or anything like that. From a technical standpoint, the game worked really well. Although that's pretty much where the pros stop for this game. I've definitely tried to pour through and figure out if there was anything else that I actually enjoyed about this game or that was done well. But sadly, there's not. This is, without a doubt, one of the worst games I've played in a very, very long time. The total playtime of this game for me was about 6 to 8 hours, and during that entire time period I did not really derive any sort of pleasure from the entire experience. In Extinction, there are only 3-ish mission types in the entire game, generally consisting of defending towers from these giant orc monsters called Reveni, killing the Reveni, which is another objective in the mission, or saving civilians. That's pretty much it. The entire game, all 7 or 8 chapters, I think there's 7 chapters, it's the same 3 mission types. Now, other missions you'll be, oh, go kill this armored Reveni, or go save 30 civilians rather than 24 civilians. It is the same 3 mission types throughout the entire game. There are preset maps through the entire game, and what I mean by this is that there are preset map types like city, fortress, grasslands, etc., etc., and when you go through and you select a mission, a lot of the times the map you've played before over and over and over again. There was very little to no variety in the maps throughout the entire playthrough, even on missions that were strategic story missions. There were times where I was playing the same mission type 3 times in a row in a campaign where it was just like rescue civilians, rescue civilians, rescue civilians, and the entirety of rescuing civilians consists of walking up to a crystal, holding a button, and teleporting them. That's the entire mechanic. There is nothing else behind that. It's worth mentioning, too, that during those rescue civilian missions, you don't even need to pay attention to the enemies. They will, of course, spawn Reveni, these giant orc things, but they are not related to anything you are doing, and you can just ignore all of the monsters attacking you and the other orcs and gargoyles and whatever while you just rescue these civilians, leading you able to complete some of those things in less than 5 minutes. Now, if we're going to talk about monster variety in this game, which is also a major downside, there were very few enemy types in the game. You had your fast goblins, your slightly stronger goblin orc things, and your big orc dudes. You had your flying enemy, your singular flying enemy, and then you had the Reveni, which had different color palettes, but everything about them was the exact same. They didn't act any different. And of course, the Reveni, the only thing that changed about them through the entire game was the armor pieces that they are wearing, which you have to then knock off during combat by using your Spirit Strike or Charge Strike and blowing away the armor pieces. The problem with Reveni is that RNG dictates what they're wearing when they spawn into the game. This means that you, in the final missions of the game, could get Reveni that spawn in with tier 1 armor, which breaks almost instantly and you can easily deal with them. Or you'll get Reveni that are wearing pieces of armor that require the AI to hit themselves to break, which doesn't happen a lot of the time, mind you, drastically changing whether or not you are capable of completing a mission. Extinction has a bunch of upgrades and other things you can buy with money you get from completing the missions and rescuing civilians and breaking armor pieces on Reveni. But it doesn't really matter. You go and you get upgrades, even something like health, getting 200% more health, for example, if you buy all the upgrades, doesn't make any difference in gameplay whatsoever. A lot of the Reveni will still one-shot you, no matter how much health you have, and things like wall climbing and jump height and whatever don't really make a difference in the overall gameplay. There was maybe one upgrade that made a drastic difference, and that was the power meter not degrading past a certain point. But throughout the game, I could have pretty much just not done anything on my upgrades and still been able to play just fine. The story itself was extremely lackluster and crappy. I wasn't captivated, I didn't enjoy it, at no point did I connect with the characters, and it was so full of tropes and just things that have been written into every game, like just horrible writing, horrible characters, and just not relatable in any way whatsoever. I found myself skipping through most of the cutscenes and most of the dialogue because it was repeating itself at later points in the story, and being able to read the text was easier than listening to the really boring personalities speak. Cutscenes were decent, I guess you could say, but even then the cutscenes ran at like 5 to 10 FPS, and generally were detached from what was going on in the story, if you can even call it that. It felt like little blurbs of past information was just tossed into a game completely unrelated to it, and although kind of nice, it just felt like a complete disconnect from what was going on. The ending was extremely disappointing, and I really don't understand where they were going with it. I feel like they cut it off early and they made it not resolved simply for the fact that there's a season pass. But there's no way in the world this game is worth $15 on a season pass, on top of the fact that you're paying $60 for the full game as a base. I cannot recommend this at all for $60. That was honestly part of the reason why this game was so frustrating to me. The simple fact that the game is $60 and offers you 8 hours of content while being filled with these horribly unoptimized, uninspired, and stupid mechanics that frustrate you throughout. If this game had come out at like $10 or $5 or even $15, it would be a much better buy than what I'm going to give it. I tried to refund this game after playing through it, but was incapable to do so, and it's one of the only games I've ever tried to refund after playing in the history of my gaming career ever. It was just the most disappointing experience I've had in 2 years, and if I'm being completely honest, I would rather go play Sea of Thieves again. I do not suggest that you buy this game. I don't suggest that you try this game unless it gets down to like $5. It's extremely disappointing to see Iron Galaxy put something like this out, and it feels like they were either rushed or controlled by the publisher or lost half their dev team or whatever, because I know they can do better than this and have done better than this in the past. So if you're wondering what my final score is going to be for this game, with all of its problems and its lack of positives and its just immensely frustrating gameplay, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10, and that is the lowest I have ever given a game. So that's the end of this rapid fire review, and hopefully the next game that I review will be better than this. Let me know what you thought of Extinction if you played Extinction in the comments down below. I apologize again for being frustrated and ranty throughout this one, but I think the game deserved it as it was the first awful game that I have reviewed. So once more, thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye, guys. I wish I could refund. I do not suggest you buy this. Save yourself from the brain damage. There we go. That's good. No.